Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, where we are lucky enough to be joined by one of our industry experts, Donny Chai from Dialpad. Our session today, I know, is something that's clearly really interesting because we've got a whole lot of people joining us. And it's reimagining customer interaction, where we will explore how AI-powered contact centers transforming customer interactions, improving efficiency, and driving business success. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes. During that time, with the help of Donny, we hope the session itself provides you with some really interesting insights, giving you some new thinking to take away, and support some of those opportunities we have within those customer interactions and really optimizing the way you're actually dealing with your customers. We'll have some polls happening throughout the session, and they'll give Donny a really good indication of, kind of where you are on your journey. And it'll help us then sort of launch the conversation as we go off. As always, we'll have Q&A at the end of the webinar. So I'm Fran Southwood, CEO of Auscontact, and I will be your moderator today. Just going to run through some general housekeeping quickly with you. My first tip, as always, let's interact. The way for you to maximise the benefits is always ask those questions that you've got. There's no need to take too many notes, as we'll provide you with the recording of the webinar and some of the slides that John is going to take us through today. If you've got questions, don't do what I do. Think you'll remember it, and then you hear all this other stuff and you forget it. If you've got a question, write it down. Use the QA feature or the chat feature. If it makes sense and it's about something that Donny's actually talking about, I'll step in and ask that question there and then so we can get it resolved. If it's more general, we'll keep it to the end. But, again, the best way for us to actually give you what you need through these sessions is for you to ask those questions and we can answer them. If you're listening through headphones or speakers and have any issues, use the raise hand feature and one of the team will jump in and try and help. We do today have a best prize being awarded for the best question. So thank you to Dialpad. We'll have a $200 Prezi Smart e-gift card that will go to the best question of the day. So again, it's important. Remember, to be eligible for that, you got to stay on until the end of the webinar. And the judge will be Donny. So, you gotta tap in there and ask some great questions. And we'll send out those details once we're finished. I'm going to stop talking. And Donny, I'm going to introduce you. Senior Solutions Engineer at Dialpad. Sales Engineering, it's got on there. I'm going to hand over to you and we can get this started.
Thank you very much, Fran, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And thank you for joining us today. I think I've got the responsibility on my hands deciding who's going to ask that really special question. So let's see who comes up with something really interesting for us, eh? Anyway, my name is Donny, as Fran has introduced. Nice to meet you, everyone. Just a little bit about what I do. I mean, not what I do, but who I represent. Dialpad, we are an AI-powered communications platform designed to bring to you essential communication all in one place. It's your voice calls, video conferencing, instant messaging, and then everything to connect with your customers, all powered with our own proprietary artificial intelligence. And really, at Dialpad, our goal is to make it really simple, help your teams work smarter, and automate those repetitive tasks with our innovative tools. Really help you drive your business effortlessly. Not to make this into a Dialpad sales pitch and everything, but just again, the last slide just to show you what we do. We have a number of unified suite of solutions: Dialpad Support, which is Contact Center; Dialpad Sell, which is our outbound sales license, which will help you with playbooks, AI training, and using a lot of Gen AI all throughout our complete stack. This is our all-in-one approach, and it really eliminates complexity of making business communications, really simple for your teams, and be able to deliver what matters most to your customers. So anyway, enough of that. So thanks for entertaining me with me. I thought we first start off with a little bit of a poll, and just to kind of get people's questions and juices thinking their head, really about what it when you before you came into this webinar today, have you thought about what's your biggest challenge in your customer interactions today? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a long list in here, but yeah, just try and pick one. Let's just have a look and see at that. But while people are looking at that, I was going to actually ask you, Fran. I do apologize. I know you're probably struggling with talking a bit, but I was wondering if you have ever had, can remember a moment where you had a really deflating experience in a contact center when you called into someone's business.
Look, it's funny. I can probably talk to one I spoke to somebody about yesterday, Donnie, and I know you're going to give some examples, but I was talking to somebody who was actually stuck in London, and they got a message saying their flight had been cancelled and to call the contact center straight away. So they did. But unfortunately, the same time they'd sent him an email which had a different number for him to call. He followed the instructions from the text, rang a contact center that didn't actually know anything about his circumstances. He had to wait for 2 hours while he was talking to them. They put him on
Wow.
hold to then call the airline. It was an outsourced situation. Um, and everything he had been told in the text message, none of that lined up with what the poor people in the contact center actually knew about to offer him, let alone the support. He goes, the text message says this. They didn't have any visibility of that. Then when he saw the email that he also received afterwards, it again gave him a whole different set of instructions. So it was like the poor people in the contact center had been totally set up to fail because they hadn't been given any visibility or the right support to actually successfully, resolve the issue for this guy. Um, and in fact, the timing of all of those pushed interactions was out of whack because the text message said call, so he did. So it goes back to what messaging are we telling our customers, but equally, how are we setting our agents up for success
Yeah.
when people are actually dealing with them? So,
Yeah.
for me, when I was talking about this one yesterday, I was just like, yeah, every element could have gone wrong, did.
hmm
Um, and yeah, nothing set anyone up for success throughout all of that interaction.
Isn't it funny how these kind of problems still exist even up to today? I
Yeah.
mean, when you were explaining that story, it actually just reminded me, say, hey, this is actually my story about a year ago when I had a bill shock with my telco provider. I mean, I won't go into the whole sad story about it, but really, it's just you touched on all the points of that. It's like
Yeah.
excessive IVR menus, or you have the wrong phone number, and like you got one menu to another, and you have absolutely no idea where you're ending up. You
Mm,
got these repeating yourself over and over again. You got unskilled agents that like, I don't know how to help you. It's not my job. And then you have just really unclear escalation processes. This where people are just not empowered to be able to know how can I help the customer at the end of
yep.
the day. Yeah, it's just
And if you think about your agents, right, I don't know anyone that turns up that doesn't want to do a job. But it's about
exactly,
giving them the tools and empowering them, right? So yeah,
exactly.
interesting. Look, there's
And
some interesting results in this poll too.
yeah, exactly. Well, like the highest one rated here, inconsistent customer experiences. I mean, how relevant was
Yeah.
that? You
Mm,
just you
mm,
just pointed that out. It was probably the biggest thing, right? People wanting. I think what we're all aiming for is really something that's. I know it might sound a little bit repetitive when I say this word seamless,
mm,
but yeah, everyone's looking for a much easier way to kind of like a nice, smooth experience when they, I have a problem, I want to get it solved, I don't want any
mm.
fuss, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. I think it goes back to that premise that, at the end of the day, people don't wake up and look forward to needing to call about something.
Yeah.
It's not, the wish list. But certainly when they need to, they want it to be seamless. They want it to be effective. They want it to be resolved. Whatever their issue is, they want resolved. So
I agree. 100%.
interesting.
100%.
Okay.
Well, that's a good segue into me kicking off this webinar. So I actually do want to share a bit of I guess, a little fantasy story. I mean, this is a made up story, but there are some truth elements in here. So I just kind of want to just call it out. So just imagine. So we've got this person you see in front of you. His name is James. It's a fake person. So apologize to all Jameses out there. There's no offenses. So James, James's family been organizing a holiday. They were looking forward to an overseas holiday with the kids and everything, sun adventure, bit of quality time. So when they ended up at the destination, a bit of drama struck. One of his kids fell ill with a severe stomach bug. I mean, I'm sure this becomes a nightmare for a lot of parents. And when that happens, you need medical attention. So you go to the local clinic or hospital. So on top of this, James has to deal with a lot of stress with his sick child, but at the same time, dreading to call the travel insurance company and fill out a claim form. There'll be like forms and forms that he has to go through. So James, he takes a deep breath. I'm hopeful. He calls the travel insurance provider and expecting a lot of the elements that we just talked about, before you talked to me a story, like long wait times, a lot of endless paperwork, a lot of multiple rounds of back and forth. But you know what? At this time, something was a bit different because of the way that he's dealt with a company that has adopted AI tools to power the contact center. So what was different? As soon as he called, the system recognized his phone number. It pulled up his policy automatically. An AI-powered system instantly analyzed his travel history, things like that, maybe recent claim submission, surfaced all that relevant information to the live agent even before the call was even answered. The agent picks up the phone, and does something really customized and personal and sympathetic. He says, "Hi, James. I see you're currently overseas with your family. I think I see that you also need assistance with medical claim. First off, I hope your son is okay. I got your policy details in front of me, and based on your location, I can confirm the clinic you're visiting is within our covered network. I'm going to process the claim now, so you're not going to pay out of pocket. I'm also going to send you an email confirmation with a list of nearby pharmacies so that where it will accept your insurance. Is that okay with you?" And now James, takes a step back and saying, "Wow, I never expected that from a travel insurance company." He was stunned. No long explanations, no searching for receipts. Everything was handled efficiently. Now, it really allowed him to focus on what's important here, which is his family, and the wellness of everyone, right? And so, thanks to a lot of these tools that the company has used, they've got things like real-time AI transcriptions, to take notes. They have a sentiment analysis to help gauge, live sentiment to help gauge James's stress levels on the phone, so when to be more empathetic on the phone rather than being very by the book. And then also, a lot of these workflows also and that you incorporate into it, they can ensure the claim approvals are done a lot faster rather than waiting a few hours or days. And really, this story where I'm trying to get at really is just talking about, I guess, what we're all trying to aim for is really about consistency, efficiency, and creating a very effortless, stress-free experience for a lot of your customers. Where AI really is no longer a tool just to reduce workload. I mean, that's what it does. No, it's going to be a game changer, just transforming customer service from the necessary function into a true source of relief and delight. So, no, this is obviously an imaginary story, but the technology that I explained about what happened when James called it that insurance company, that's readily available today. So it's not fancy. And then today I want to talk about like how showcasing AI. Again, we're looking beyond just automating things and making things faster, but really about how AI can empower agents to deliver faster, more accurate and more personalized service. I think that's what we're all trying to aim for. And also with a lot of the realizing the benefits, a lot of the tools that can make it a lot people to work more effectively. So moving away from the story, let's talk about a bit of the macro environment about what we're facing with in terms of customer experience. Now, Gartner predicted by this year, around this year, 2025, this was like, I think maybe a year or 2 years ago, 80% of customer service organizations will be using some sort of Gen AI, right? An AI tool in some way to improve the agent productivity and customer experience. I don't have the latest numbers in front of me about how they're actually measuring up against what they predicted, but working in this industry for nearly more than 15 years or so, can tell you this is not a prediction anymore. It's already happening. We've dealt with so many customers and people talking about AI, and AI adoption, it really has skyrocketed, across all businesses and sizes. Even from small startups to massive enterprises, and then AI really is just being used everywhere. And then they notice that people are understanding that they're using AI. It's not really just a nice to have anymore, but it really becoming part of the core of how customer services operate. And the real question here, you got to ask yourself, it's not about if AI will be part of your contact center. It's about how you're going to use it to stay ahead and gain an edge. And I think that's going to resonate to a lot of people who are listening today. It's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it to be able to use AI to gain an edge over the competition? Because we want to deliver better and more for our customers.
Donnie, I think that's a really important thing though, is it isn't a matter of if, it really isn't. So I think there is a really limited window, and what organizations now need to really start thinking about is, what is their strategic approach to this? What are the things that they know will make the biggest impact as far as change
Mhm.
organizationally, but equally from a customer and an agent perspective? How do they actually set themselves up in a way that tranches that over the next few years to give them the biggest wins, but equally to allow them this iterative learning as well? So really sort of to optimize and capitalize on these opportunities. But yeah, it's
Absolutely.
interesting because we do still see people that say absolutely not yet, we've got no appetite. It's like, well, how are you getting ready for this? How are you expanding what you know enough, really build what a strategic approach could be for you for the next 18 months?
That's right. Fran, over the last 3 months, I've spoken to at least one or two customers a month, and each one of them being in somewhat senior management position, that they told us. And the reason why we're looking at Dialpad today or whatever it is that I have a mandate. I've been told I need to implement one or two or three AI tools by X date.
Mm,
And it's not about like, oh, you got to think about it. No, no, you're gonna have to do it
you've got
now.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it. But I think also it highlights I mean the trend where people are obviously starting to adopt it, but they're still learning about what is
Yeah.
going to work well for them. You know, so it is an interesting space we're in right now.
Mm,
Absolutely. So moving on from that, we're looking at some of the key trends that we see in the contact center space here. And now obviously there'll be a ton of different trends you'll find in lots of different spaces, but we've picked up four different ones here today, and ones I think quite relevant, especially in the industry for contact centers. And it's just really about just understanding about how are we how do we need to adapt around like AI, and what needs to be done around using AI to be able to gain more out of it rather than just again transcribe my calls. Like almost everyone's doing that now. So, for example, the four key trends we're looking at here is firstly Gen AI. We've kind of heard this repeated over and over again. With moving beyond just your simple chatbot. You're thinking about more personalized responses in real time, anticipating customer needs. Even before the voice. I mean, obviously, most people would start to think about ChatGPT, and that is a great example of it. I know last time when you talked with my colleague Jaden, he doesn't like ChatGPT, but that's him. But we're moving towards when people have experienced Gen AI and they realize how much more personable it can be. Obviously, it's a robot, but it sounds like a bit of a human-like experience. It becomes very engaging. And then very, very interesting for the people wanting to, I want to do more. And then you got the second one, which is automations, right? Again, we're looking at, obviously, this is one of the core benefits of AI, where you're looking at how do we go about, removing a lot of the repetitive things that do come up frequently within the conversations we have customers. It's not just about reducing costs, but how do we find quick answers, common questions? How do we free up agents to focus on more complex things where they feel it's worth their time to actually dive into it and try and solve that problem rather than, can you change my email address or can you update my phone number? I mean, those kind of things can be done quite easily. Then you got the third one, which is insight analytics. And you're turning data into actionable gold. And I think, obviously, for all of us who are the people attending today's webinar, we all know that data is king, and you need that data to help you with your decision making. Empirical evidence is absolutely crucial, but raw data on its own, without any kind of ability to extract meaningful insights, it's just really hard to find out exactly what you're trying to look for. You can't really identify where are your real pain points, or how do you use it to predict customer behavior and optimize operations in real time. Last but not least is the agent assistance. So these are the rise of the actual AI coaches for agents, and this is a bit of a trend now. And the reason why is that the agents are the front line for a lot of these customer interactions, and but they're also being, at the same time, they're being pummeled with a lot of information and knowledge that they have to remember, or sometimes it's so complex that you just can't remember everything. So agent assistants are going to be changing the game by providing them, things like real-time support, process guidance, helping them to improve efficiency, making them look like a rock star on the phone, rather than, oh, let me just put it in hold and we'll go check and, take about 10 minutes to find out that answer for you. Again, it ruins the experience, right? So
Even if you
these
think
four,
about your speed to competency and the difference that this can make to the confidence of the agents. Your example there about feeling like a rock star. Our agents all just want to feel like they're experts. They want to know that they're providing the right advice and they're helping customers. That is who they are
that's
to
right.
their core. So the option here and the opportunity to really, I don't know, really build out that confidence at a much faster pace, but equally with the right safety rails around them, suddenly gives you a different opportunity with even some of those kind of adjacent activities, your training, your quality, etc.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, agents come in to do their job. They want to do a good job, but if companies are hindering them by loading a lot of other things that can prevent them from doing a good job, it does make them feel like burnout. They don't have visibility, and this becomes really frustrating, right? So that leads me to the next topic, which is a very good segue. And I think I like to highlight this part of the webinar. It's really around the hidden costs of way too many applications. We often hear about, we need to be agile, we need to be multitasking masters, put on the different hats at the same time. But we know when we have agents having to deal with a multitude of applications, each one of them having to solve a different problem, which is great, but collectively, you're not really seeing that maybe it's creating a bigger problem itself. So to highlight an example, so if you think back about the imaginary story I talked about with James. Now James calls into the call center with an urgent issue. You know, your agents are faced with a multitude of, I guess, obstacles. So firstly, your agents need to access a CRM for the customer history. They need to get the knowledge base for troubleshooting, or maybe asking for something really technical, something really difficult to understand. Or maybe they need another separate system for scheduling follow-ups, or they need another platform to go and upload recordings or interaction notes. And then you've got all these different apps here. This one you need to do this, that one you need to do that, this one you need to do this. It becomes a constant context switching, which leads to longer handling times, frustration built up on the calls for both the agents and customers. and ultimately a lower chance of first call resolution. So we're trying to, I guess, look at ways like how do we manage this complex web of apps, which translates to a lot of things like steeper learning curves, complicated guides, and that things that require a lot of updating. And how do we empower agents to make sure that they're set up for success rather than the failure itself, And at the end of the day, really, if nothing changes out of all of this, you're looking at things like decreased agent satisfaction, increased turnover, and it becomes a negative ripple effect on the entire customer experience. No one likes to deal with an agent who couldn't be bothered to answer your calls, but they're doing it because they need to get a paycheck. And that impacts on your customer loyalty and a lot of things that do matter to the business, right? Now, this one I put together. I designed a little framework to kind of highlight some of the flows about like how each part of the cycle, the framework, actually does impact on one or the other. So when you got going back to the agent again, they're juggling multiple apps, in the input stage. They're answering the phone call, they got emails, they got chats, all coming through different apps or channels. They require agents to switch between systems just to get a complete picture of the customer's needs. And then you got the process, like, all right, now I need to process what the customer's asking for. Here are the agents. Now they need to struggle with note taking if you're not using any of the modern tools now. You have to type a lot of things. You get spelling errors. You got grammatical errors. You got to putting the callers on hold while they have to navigate to the different applications. And you got lots of delays and higher chance of errors. Then you go into the next stage where it's the output, where you're trying to provide resolution and it suffers as a result. Why? Because there's again a lot more note taking, more potential errors, more apps to update, no more calls requiring follow-ups, which impacts on how many calls the agent can actually handle. And what does this mean at the end? Really, is the feedback stages that you get what all that three processes lead to lower CSAT scores, maybe missed training opportunities, maybe a lack of visibility in the customer journey. And this is all the symptoms of a broken process. And then what happens? The cycle begins all over again. The same inefficiencies feeding on to the next round interactions. So, highlighting the previous slide I talked about is really when we're throwing more apps, we're throwing out agents, more tools, the more gaps we're also unintentionally, I think, in my opinion, we create in the cycle. And these gaps, can translate into a lot of wasted time, frustrated customers, and lost revenue. So, we're just trying again, looking beyond this, and how do we get better tools or better systems or processes so that we're creating something that's a lot more efficient and then empowering agents to really, bring delight to customers when they call in. So,
Johnny, I'm just going to ask you a question, and it's a little bit about some stuff you talked about earlier, but Harry's put a question in here, but I think it relates to what you've just sort of touched on as well. And it's just asking how you're leveraging AI to detect and respond to the customer sentiment in real time. So when you talked about your sentiment analysis earlier, you said it's kind of building into that feedback. So how do you do it in real time, and how does that impact agent behavior or automated responses during those live interactions? Can you give us a bit on that?
yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So I think I can relate it back into our tools, what we do. I think at Dialpad, we make it pretty easy. We've got, AI is a core part of every single part of our platform. And what happens is when someone's talking on a phone call and you have, let's say, maybe an upset customer who's very frustrated, our AI is trained on to detecting sentiments, some things that people say, like frustrated words and intonation and things like that. And we can create, by understanding these kind of things, we can create things like alerts, notifications, or understandings like, all right, if we have a frustrated customer, what do we need to do? Maybe one, we need to inform the manager. Maybe the manager can immediately jump on and just have a look and see what's going on, maybe provide some assistance. Maybe we need to provide some additional assistance automatically to the agent. So let's say if the customer said, look, I'm very frustrated with this whole process, then you can have something surface to the agent based on that keyword or phrase saying that, hey, look, customer seems frustrated. Why don't you follow these steps to help calm them down? Maybe offer a chance to invite a senior into the call to help resolve and make it better. Now, remember to calm down, breathe, because in the midst of panic and frustration, people can just get lost in what they're supposed to say. And I think these are just a couple of tools in there, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do, but essentially, it's really about how do you take those actions quicker to be able to resolve the problem at that point in time with at least amount of, I guess, gap between where it happened and after it happened. It's like when they say, friend, when you learned how to drive the first time. I mean, I don't know if you took driving instructions, but I did, and the instructor would just yell at me and say, "Don't drive so fast." Well, you like, okay, I need to slow down right now. Or say, "Don't turn too hard." Okay, I need to take it a lot easier on the corner there. So it's yes, that's extreme. Yes, there's someone yelling in my ear, but that's different. But it's really just about, let's say, you have someone there automatically knowing what's going on, they're monitoring everything about all the data they're being fed, and they're giving you insights and things about like how can you handle those interactions better, right? So you know how to make better decisions. Without that insight and information, I think it's hard to know like what am I doing wrong? How can I do this better? I think you're on mute, Fran.
Look at that. Who would have thought? Um, sorry, Johnny.
That's all right.
I'm going to say it's because I'm sick, guys. Um, do you find organizations are tapping into it for their leaders as well to identify where their agents are struggling or being challenged, or where you're seeing some of the
Absolutely.
sentiment increase that way? Is it, being tapped into as a tool to, have additional support available?
Yeah,
Someone can walk over. Sometimes it's those sorts of things that
100%.
also are needed in an environment. Yeah.
100%. Well, I remember I used to be a team leader in a contact center, and I know the typical thing, like you said, the walkover, right? And you hear someone is struggling on a phone call, you kind of walk over and stand next
Mm.
to them and make sure they're okay and things like that. And now, if you need to listen in, you kind of have to go through this wonky cable to like jack in and then
The old
listen
double
out.
jack.
That's right.
Yep.
I mean, modern tools nowadays, I mean, like us, we don't need that. You just do it from
Yeah.
the comfort of your home, right? But it's really about, I guess, I think as a team leader or a supervisor manager, you want to help your team,
Mm.
right? You're not there to kind of watch them. You're not going to make a mistake. No, you want to make sure you're giving them as much support. You want them successful, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Most of the people I know, anyway. And
And with
being
the work from home, suddenly you don't have a walkover. You don't
That's right.
have that opportunity to overhear when things are getting a little tense.
That's right.
So actually, this sort of stuff becomes even more important because it needs to be a virtual walkover.
That's right. And what if your
Mm.
team is like spread out all over the world? You have
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
in New Zealand, Australia, India, US, wherever, right? It doesn't matter.
Mm.
Like that's becoming more challenging. It's like I can't walk over anymore, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have better
Yeah.
tools to support them, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love that. I like that you can, see it where an agent, particularly where you've got agents that are more mature and, sort of dealing with more complex things, can actually use it themselves. So quite empowering.
exactly,
But I
exactly,
really like that supportive component as well that can be built in.
100%.
Good question,
So,
Harry.
thank you, Harry. Great question. And so that's a good segue into we're going to go start looking at some like more specific tools about like how do we go about helping and supporting our agents to ensure that they're not getting overloaded, and covering off the four trends I talked about earlier. So there are some great AI tools that can help you do a lot of these things. So with what we do, generative AI, we can do things like summarize your phone calls, you know, in meetings and emails and chats, and make them searchable, actionable. No, you don't have to sift through a lot of endless scripts and things like that. With your automation, you can think about using AI to make AI-driven workflows so that you're resolving issues before they even reach a human. And we're not just talking a simple AI chatbot like step one, step two. It's more about an actual interactive generative AI that actually helps to automate a lot of this. And then the insights area as well. I think this is also one key area some people, don't truly appreciate, is that the AI is really good at crunching a lot of big data. Now it provides you with a lot of the real-time customer sentiment, so that's an example. The other one is like, what if you could use AI to automatically predict your CSAT scores, right? How satisfied was the customer on the phone call, and also understand automatically what was their customer journey analytics. And the last one, of course, is the the agent assistant. Now, it's a 24/7 coach. Now, for each and every single agent, without having to go employ an additional person, and offering live guidance, real-time suggestions, for every interaction, with them for every single phone call.
Johnny, can you then aggregate that? So, again, Fran's on the phone. I'm getting AI, nudging and, support the sort of the whole day through. Over a month, can it give a really nice synopsis of where are my strengths and weaknesses, and how do I then build that into coaching programs, training programs, et cetera, is obviously, I mean, you can make this stuff do anything, right? But are we seeing organizations really start thinking strategically about how that agent support can actually build that
Absolutely.
future pathway stuff? Yeah, love that.
Oh, 100%.
Mm,
I think one of the things I heard but kind of also learned, but also reinforced by a conversation I had with a customer the other day, was that, they were talking about how important it is to train their agents and support them. And, what is the best teacher to be able to help like teach or train the agents is actually learning from other people, right? That's how we learn. We learn from other people through books or by listening to someone, or even webinars like this. You learn from other people. You take the good things about what they do and say, how can I actually do that better? But the challenge here, I mean, the concept is good. It's not a new concept, but the challenge is really like, how do we actually go about doing this more efficiently, right? Traditional systems are, oh, you got to download the recording and then put it into some obscure folder, and you have absolutely no idea what that's all about. It could be a half an hour call, and I don't have half an hour to listen to the phone call recording, do you? I don't. So
yeah.
now we have a lot of tools where you can do things like Spotify. You could create a playlist. It's like, I want this playlist, but make me feel good. Another playlist, for my bedtime routine. Like maybe you want
Oh,
to,
I love that
right?
description. That's actually really cool, because you do want to be able to actually highlight the great as well. Whether it's,
Right?
how you've set it up, whether it's about the stages within an interaction that actually are great.
That's
Um,
right.
the sky's really the limit, isn't it, as far as how it could be used in that
Absolutely.
respect. Yeah, no, I love
And
that. Um, yep,
you can't really stop your imagination. Just like, how can we actually start
mm,
to do things better, right? And once you
yeah,
start to see the value of tools that can actually help you do it, it's like you're like, wow, suddenly
yeah.
all that time I spent doing all of that is just really compressed down to this much only, right? And I
Well, it
don't need to.
means you can then be strategic in how you develop your people instead of spending all that time crunching and, as you say, sitting listening to calls. And look, I think one of the biggest risks is that we are limited by the understanding of the current environment. The reality here
Mm.
is, and the real opportunity we have, is to actually redefine our current environment. It is about making some real changes. We've got some great questions here, Donny. I'm just going to throw a few at you just so
Yeah,
we get
sure.
through some. Astrid's asked, can we use machine learning to feed Dialpad with technical terminology in
Mhm.
different accents?
Oh, I love this question. That's a really good
Yeah.
one. You know what? That's not an unusual request. What we can do, and okay, again, I was told to keep it very, thought leadership conversation today, but I'll kind of ditch that
You
for
got
a
to
little
go
bit.
tech sometimes, Donny.
I do. So what we have in Dialpad is called a company dictionary. Now, this is a feature where you can actually customize and input a list of like words or very specific to your industry that will also be able to, what we can do is transcribe it a lot more accurately. Now,
Yeah.
AI is great. it can mostly predict words quite well. But again, it's just a machine, and it relies on a lot of data and understanding about how well do we need to configure it. So here's an example, actually. The other day, I was talking to a customer. They run a Pilates um, center, actually
Video.
multiple
Yep.
ones of them, right? And all over Australia and everything. I was like, great. And then they go say, great. So can you show me how do you transcribe Pilates? So I was first, I didn't know how to say the word Pilates because my wife does it, but I never bothered saying it. And then she just said Pilates, and then I say Pilates, and it didn't come out right. Then I searched like, how am I supposed to actually say this? And I Googled it, and I looked at it. It's supposed to be said Pilates, depending on where you are from, the US or the UK way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I tried a number of times to say Pilates, Pilates, but it kept coming out said like Pots lease or something like
Yeah.
that, or something really weird. And sometimes it would get Pilates correct, but it was getting a bit confused. So what we did was also I went back to our AI team, our data scientists. Hey, look, I know it's a small thing, but I was struggling to actually get Pilates transcribed properly on the call, and they just went onto it like white on rice. I was like, "Tell me where, give me examples. I'm going to make sure it actually gets done really well." I was like, "Wow, that's really cool." And
That's,
I think
it
that's the
reminds me
benefit.
of, well, have you ever seen that skit and there's people in a lift and I think it's someone with an Irish accent or a Scottish accent and they need, it's voice activated and they're trying to say the floor it needs to go to, but the lift would not recognize the accent. So they're stuck in the lift. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Um, that's good that you're constantly looking for how can you actually adapt for that
Yeah,
accent driven
yeah.
traffic. Like it's an issue for sure.
I think another level on top of this, and I'll reveal it because it is. I think we are truly dedicated to always improving our systems and delivering value to customers. You know how in Australia and New Zealand we have a lot of very unique words that are unique to our countries, right? Like
Come on
places
now,
like
Donny.
Wollongong, right? In New
Yeah,
Zealand we say kia ora, but
yeah,
we mix that in our everyday language. It's not necessarily an English word, but hey, look, we say it, right? And but doesn't transcribe properly. So what we're also doing internally is we're actually looking at how can we further customize local languages to different countries. So when you
yeah,
say you're in Australia, sorry, in New Zealand, you say someone greets you on the phone call, kia ora, welcome to New Zealand, blah blah blah, whatever it means. It will actually transcribe it properly because it understands
yeah.
that kia ora is a spoken word. It's not English, but we use it every day.
It's a greeting. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's good. So the local dialect almost actually being built into it.
So yeah.
Um, okay, a few more questions here. Can emotional intelligence apply in AI as real humans?
Ooh. I guess it depends on the type of AI that you're looking into, right? Um,
Yeah,
Nothing can replace, well, at least for now, can replace what humans can perceive as emotional intelligence. I think it's hard, at least for now, with the current technology we're seeing, is that machines don't quite understand the complexities of human brains and how we think and how we feel. It might be able to imitate it, and I think it will probably get a lot smarter. It may become to a point where we actually truly believe that, wow, you can actually manipulate my emotions and make me happy, sad, or frustrated. So right now, the technology we're using, at least in the commercial space or personal space, is getting closer to that point. I don't think, uh, I don't know what's going to look like, you know, maybe 2 years from now or 3 years from now. It's going to maybe completely blow our minds. We'll have a actual live talking robot who you can have a laugh with or a bit of a banter on a Friday night, or whatever it might be. I don't know. I think what we're trying to do is, I think, in terms of that particular question with, I guess, emotional intelligence and AI, with what Dialpad really is doing, we're focused on business communications, and we're really wanting to be a good and really quality product for our customers to use because they know you come to Dialpad, we're going to absolutely give you very accurate transcriptions. And out of all of that, you can get a lot of really good insights and data from it too. So a bit hard to answer that question in a very short while. I'm sure we got a lot more questions from that, but I would love
Yeah,
to, yeah,
I,
dive in
it's
further.
definitely one of those watch this space, I think.
Yeah.
We've got a question here from Erin in relation to, is this information like ChatGPT? I'm just trying to work out what we're saying here. Is information collected from the calls contained to the organization or shared for the AI as an ongoing data bank of information? I think, Erin, what you're trying to say is it contained? So again, we have security, privacy,
Yeah.
customer information, all those sorts of things that are very,
Yeah.
very high on the agenda as far as
Yeah.
organizations go. Johnny, can you give a little bit of, a quick rundown on how, whatever the LLM is, whatever it's done, how it's contained
Mhm.
within organizations, protected?
Yeah. So then that's a great question to ask as well. I think security's got to be the top priority for anyone looking at AI tools, right? If you
Yeah.
don't have good security certifications behind it, and you can't trust that tool to be able to keep everything safe. Now, I can't speak for others, but with Dialpad specifically, what we do is we actually give customers the choice. You can either opt in to give us your data and we will further train it. We will anonymize it and ensure that any kind of personal information is stripped out. And we're going to use a lot of data to further train our AI to make it even more accurate and deliver better insights, and which we're going to benefit everyone who uses Dialpad. And some customers, we have majority customers happily opting in because they're happy with our certifications, our security standards, and then we have some customers who have specific business practices where, you know what, we can't let that happen. And that's okay. And it's just really flip of a switch. Turn it off. You don't need to worry about it. You just continue using all the AI tools in your own little bubble, and that's okay. And nothing is going to leave out of there. Hopefully that answers
No,
that question.
that's a good response. And I think, as you say, there's some real benefit in actually utilizing the data then to actually train and build, you know, bigger sets of data, but equally the importance of that, anonymity and removing definable components that actually pose risk. So, Johnny, I'm going to let you. I know we've got a little bit more to go and we've got another poll to do, and
Yeah,
then we'll
sure.
come back to some more questions
All
after
right.
that.
No problem. Okay. Poll time. So my turn to ask the audience a question. So here is about, we're going to lead into this a little bit more, but based on what you kind of seen so far, which AI powered feature do you think would most benefit to your team? And again, like I always like to have a bit of a conversation around this while we wait for everyone to submit the answers. Now, Brian, have you ever come across like dealing with a business where I say, oh, they're actually using AI or that AI to help me with this, or it's like, oh, actually, they completely dealt with my problem immediately, but you never knew actually AI was behind all of that, powering the entire interaction.
Look,
What do you think?
funnily enough, I I am the queen of trying not to call anyone, which is interesting when you think about the industry we're in. Um, I would probably say I've been very aware of people where they're following a very prescriptive application as opposed to, so again, an
Mhm.
agent assist, but not with any empowerment enabled. So again, like I said before, they've just replaced current state into new technology. So instead of um, a prescriptive script, they've got prescriptive agent assist, which
Mhm.
still doesn't actually empower their people when your sets of circumstances don't fit within the box. It doesn't enable their people to kind of step outside of it. Um,
Yeah.
so I've had some really frustrating situations recently with one of the banks actually, trying to get something resolved, and it, it has taken months and required a person at the end of it because again, everything was so prescriptive. So even how they were using AI was not in a way that was about future thinking. It was about how they currently do their business, which again takes me back to say the real opportunity is in rethinking some of what we do with the new technology in mind, as opposed to, it's like when you roll out a new system, right?
Mhm.
What most of us do, we put out a new CRM or we put out a new whatever, we pick up how we operate now and we build it into this new system. And we go, fantastic, job's done with this new system. But we're still operating the way we have for the last 15 years because we've just got our own old practices that we've picked up and dropped.
That's
And
right.
we miss that optimization opportunity. And I think a lot of people miss it.
That's right. I take it to, going back to, how you learn how to drive a car, but taking one step further, it's like you finally upgraded your Honda Civic to, a Lexus SUV. Your driving habits haven't changed. You upgraded your car, but you're still thrashing the car. You're not really getting the most out of it. Making the most efficient, getting the efficiencies out of, using the hybrid or electric motor behind it. And it's just for me also like also it, I didn't buy a Lexus, by the way. I did upgrade from I didn't get a Toyota RAV4, but it was ages ago. But it also hit me the fact that had not changed the way I drove compared to how I did. And when I had made the conscious thought, I was like, you know what? I need to change the way I drive. That way I can get more out of my car and realize the benefits of the hybrid and get more mileage. Now I feel better, about the environment and all this other stuff, and spend my wallet and things like that too. And it took me a while before I actually realized that, because I was just driving as I normally would, just floor to the pedal floor and
Muscle
fix.
memory. But if you think about that in the modern environment, and I've just seen a comment up there from Jamie, and it's saying, insights are great. However, the interesting thing is that people don't know what they don't already know, which is exactly the point we're talking about, right?
It's
You
right.
just get in a new car and you drive how you've always driven. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who said, if you had to review CX, where would you start? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't be doing it the way we're doing it now. Like we shouldn't be looking at it exactly the same way. But unless you know the next question to ask, or unless you are working with someone to actually say, let me take a step back and
Mhm.
actually, what do I want to design? What's my systems thinking here?
That's right.
All we do is operate exactly like you've said there, Jamie. Wouldn't it be great if you could interrogate the data to ask questions like, what does the data show us that we're doing well? What does it say about contact center metrics? There are all sorts of examples there. But to that point, right, we've got to get smarter with rethinking the application outside of what we know, outside of what we do, outside of what has always been done.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's the most exciting part, right? Not just the tech that can do it, but the opportunity to start challenging our approaches and being brave and bold and stepping into that.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's my soapbox. Look at these results.
I
They're
know.
interesting as well, right?
Look at that. I look at the 38% for conversational summaries and action items. I think that sounds to me is like probably the lowest hanging fruit that most people can think about in terms of actually that would really benefit something immediately. Like you're on a phone call and everything, but who wants to take notes on a phone call? I mean, I used to do it for a living, but not anymore because we use Dialpad now. And it's a game changer. Like I just don't even need to think about it because I rely on the AI to actually do a pretty decent job to actually do all that for me. And I think that's amazing. And also and then the other one, the next one on top of that is the real-time agent coaching, like the instantaneous feedback about like how can you give agents the right direction live so that they know how to steer the car or steer the conversation.
Yeah.
Super insightful. This is really interesting.
Very good. Yep. Okay, I'm mindful of time,
All
Donnie,
right.
and we've got a bit to
Yes.
get through still.
Yes, we do. All right, let's power on. So this slide here is all it's not it's not a philosophy, right? It's a business imperative. Really, it's just about you got to think about who your customers interact with every single day. It's your agents, the voice of your brand, the problem solvers, the trust builders, And then going back again to what we talked about, we're expecting our agents to deliver a lot of things and place a lot of high standards on top of them. And they're trying to their best really is to to juggle all the multiple applications, increasing customer expectations. And sometimes with not a lot of support. And really, we want to avoid the scenario where you get frustrated agents, which will eventually impact onto your customers that will become frustrated with you as well. So how do we change it? No, we need to use forward-thinking contact center business practices that adopt AI, that uses technology that will work with agents, not against them. So really around what's going to define a truly exceptional customer experience. It's just not about solving problems anymore. I mentioned earlier, it's really about like effortlessly, and doing it proactively. Again, I like to talk about these things with examples. If we think back to James when he called into the travel insurance company, he's got another problem now. He's got a problem with the actual claim itself. And so when he does reach back to the call center, and a lot of these things can be surfaced to the agent to help them interact better with the customer. So with James, sorry. For example, let's say James calls in, his previous interactions are instantly summarized without giving the agent full context, without making him repeat himself. The agents can go back, quickly read through exactly what was being spoken about in the action items. Now you got things like quality assurance that automated throughout the phone call, ensuring that your everything is being captured and in compliance and service in real time. And you also got AI guided agent support, where the agent is handling agent's case, receives real-time guidance like pop-up cards, real-time assist cards, or suggestions, best next steps to ensure a smooth resolution. And again, before the call ends, the AI-powered sentiment analysis, AI scoring, AI CSAT scorings provide immediate feedback so that you know exactly how you actually did on that particular phone call itself or interaction. The main point here, with these four little boxes here is that AI is used when you use AI properly. You're really empowering your agents to remove the friction and efficiencies and the guesswork of what they're supposed to do day in day out. So they can really focus on, again, I like to say, delivering delightful customer experiences to your customers. Now, this is going to get a little bit geeky here. I won't go into too much detail, but some people actually do like to understand a bit of this. So we're going to get a bit technical. I'll try not to bore you to tears, but I think it's also important to understand the technology that you use nowadays. Especially when you have a lot of AI stuff, inside your business and what they do and how they can add value. Particularly with Dialpad, this is like some small insight about what we use, how we use AI. So things like speech recognition, being able to accurately capture what people are saying with high accuracy, so that you don't need to have like really bad autocorrect text transcripts that does come out. Then you got natural language understanding. The AI is not just transcribing words; it understands the meanings and detects sentiment, like frustrated, or I'm angry, or I'm peed off. And then things like that, right? And then you got also things like semantic graphs. It's a bit technical there, but you think of it like, you're building connections between words and concepts. So if I say something like Tiger Woods, you might think about golf. If I say Elon Musk, you might think Tesla or SpaceX. Now, if I say Donald Trump, you might, think about the color orange or whatever your imagination will respond to that. And then, of course, you have generative AI, using this to unlock real-time summarizations, intelligent recommendations, and automated coaching, those kind of things, right? And just make it fine-tuned for real-world business needs. And so we're going to just kind of point out a few things around, like, what does it really mean to make, to use some of these tools to help you kind of gain an edge in your business, right? When we talked about AI recaps and action points, specifically with Dialpad, you're doing things like, if you have a 45-minute phone call, I mean, no one got 45 minutes to listen to a recording. Now, our AI can instantly distill this conversation to a quick summary and highlight key action points and even categorize the call's intent. Was it about a billing issue? Was it about scheduling? Was it an appointment? Or was it about invoice? Whatever it might be, we can automatically do all that. And the best thing really here is that if you do that and you have native integrations to your CRM, all that gets sent straight into your CRM records automatically. And we have customers doing this, saving them so much time on all their phone calls, right? Agents are a lot more efficient. They don't have to worry about putting in much more notes than they really need to, and they just move on and just do what they want to do and just answer calls and just deliver delightful experiences. Then you got automation, eliminating repetitive work. A lot of these, things that boil down to, database lookups and things like that. But when you use AI in that, you can just deflect a lot of this so that your agents are being freed up. Again, this is the same concepts we kind of covered off earlier as well. Then you're with this particular part here, looking beyond the basic metrics. Imagine not just knowing how long a customer waited on a phone call on your average wait times, those kind of things. But what if you could track, the sentiment of every single phone call? Were there a lot of elements of negative sentiments or positive sentiments? Was there frustration? Did they mention about billing issues or what invoice inquiries? Right? These kind of things, when you insert AI in there, it's going to give you a lot more visibility into what kind of real insights you're getting out of phone calls. And then again, not wanting to sound like a broken record, but real-time coaching. I think this is a key essential thing when it comes to empowering agents, that giving them the tools, the ability to be able to have someone to help them during a live call so they know where they're headed and they're not just wandering into the darkness, right? Rather than, let's just do it now and then we'll fix it later on, which, again, people do forget about those kind of things as well. All right. Got a couple of testimonials from customers. I wouldn't be doing my job justice if I didn't talk about this. So maybe I would just talk about one, and we'll just kind of power on through to the final slides. One particular one I want to highlight is about Care Choice. Care Choice is a provider for disability support services across APAC. 810 dedicated employees. They're a growing organization facing a lot of challenges like any company does, and they want to be able to provide the best support to their customers, right? So before Dialpad, they had a lot of problems with like high operational costs. They didn't have integrations with their Salesforce. A lot of their workflows were very slow. They didn't have real-time visibility. So a lot of things were very manual for them, and it just made life very difficult. Now, since partnering with Dialpad, I like to say I'm very proud that we've helped them transform the business. And I don't say this word lightly, transform. It's this turn things around. Now they got things like live dashboards. They have real-time visibility into the operations. They have AI tools to summarize the phone calls and input that automatically in Salesforce. Improve the agent efficiency and sentiment analysis to allow the team leaders and managers to be able to provide on real-time support. And then they're also using things like AI scorecards, which automatically rates every single phone call and ensure that agents are following a particular process. And at the end of the day, what's the result? Higher overall NPS, easy onboarding for new members. So this is really giving them a much better experience with better tools, right?
And Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those opportunities, like you talk about a scorecard and the rest of it, it's up to a business how they then use that. So it might be that becomes the leader's tool, as opposed to ever going anywhere near an agent. And it actually lets you then coach and support, et cetera, as opposed to being something that's, can sometimes be seen a little bit punitive if it's pushed to an agent. And certainly could have impacts on some of those other components, but it's certainly the opportunity to pull together that data to actually support your people better.
That's right. So, I mean, we talked a lot about supporting agents, but we can't forget also about supporting the people who are supporting agents, which are the team leaders, managers, right? So, absolutely. We'll skip over Zero, just conscious how much time we have, but they're an amazing company using Dialpad. We have a case study on our website if you're keen to look at it later on. And I just want to finish off with my final thoughts around, what does the future hold with AI and contact centers? So, AI it's evolving every day. It's transforming the way business operates, and there are two concepts that keep emerging and redefining like how we interact, with each other as we know it. And those two concepts are called agentic AI. You might have heard of it, and the other one is artificial general intelligence (AGI). Now, agentic AI, it goes beyond what we've kind of talked about today. It just doesn't, it's not just responding to a request, it actually takes action. And then, think about it like, say, the AI just doesn't book a flight for you, but maybe it anticipates delays, maybe rebooks something automatically in case they just get canceled. I wish that something like that existed for me like a month ago when I was stuck in Brisbane. Anyway, we'll leave that leave it at that. And negotiates a refund for you and those kind of things, right? So, and it's AI that works on behalf of both customers and agents. And then you got AGI, which is like the holy grail of AI, right? Unlike what we're using today. The AGI would have this human level intelligence. I think what Asterix probably pointed out, like emotional intelligence, maybe, I don't know. It's capable of reasoning, learning, adapting like we do. While it's still very theoretical, and its potential is huge, and very, very intuitive customer experiences and products can be designed around what customers need before they even ask all this. But with all this really possibility, it comes down to this big questions like, how do we ensure that AI is also used responsibly? And how do we prepare for a future where AI isn't just a tool, but a collaborator? And that's the thought I want to leave with everyone in the audience today, about what you want to take away from this webinar. Is the future of AI-powered customer interaction isn't just something we wait for. It's something we all think we should shape together. And I hope that we will use it to build smarter businesses, create more meaningful experiences and relationships, and ultimately make the world a better place for everyone. That's the end of my speech.
Johnny, I love that. I feel like I should break out in song. But you're right. It is so important that, actually we are thinking in the way that helps us actually contribute to where this is heading. There's such opportunity, right? And every time I have these conversations with people like yourself, I sit there and I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much more here, right? It's such a rich environment with great opportunity. And as you say, every single day, there is something new that's being talked about or explored or thought about that we haven't yet thought about.
Yeah.
I know we've got a load of questions here. I am mindful of the time and I understand people may need to drop off. I'm going to pose this one to you. Do you want to go through some of these questions? We'll also send, for those that have had to already drop off and those that need to, when we send out the registration email with the link and everything, we'll actually get you to respond to all of these questions so everybody can see a copy of them.
Yep.
So we can send that out as well as those
Yep.
ones that we've already covered off, just so people have some visibility of that. And it also means you can go through all the questions. And this game, we've got quite a few more still here.
I
Yeah,
love it.
people,
I love it.
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
a good idea because I do have the heavy weight or responsibility of choosing the best question. So I got to give everyone a fair
yes,
chance.
yes, that is correct. And the
Good.
more info here, lots of people saying great session, but they've got to drop off. So we
Okay.
might pull those responses together. And at the same time, go through the questions. And, again, I think you've got the hardest job today because they've all been absolute corkers. And again, challenging us all in really different ways to think differently about what we do. With that in mind, everybody, thanks for coming along today. As always, so much that, we get to learn from our expert partners, but equally, your participation means we learn more as well. So until the next time, enjoy the rest of your day. I will call out apologies for sounding so terrible today. And we'll send something out with for responses to these Fabo questions. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks,
Bye,
Johnny.
everyone.
Great
Thank
to
you.
chat.
Same here, friend. It was a pleasure. See you, everyone. Thank
See
you,
ya.
Ron.